Alright, it's time. The World Championship 2018 starts in 2 days. World Champion Magnus Carlsen is challenged by American Fabiano Caruana. So the first game is on November 9th and starts at 3 p.m. local time in London. So in this video, I want to get us in the mood. We'll do a quick recap and we'll check the last two games they have won against each other, so the last victories. We'll check some highlights, we won't check the entire game. And we also check the games they have played against each other this year. So let's begin. The last win by Caruana against Carlsen dates back to World Chess 2015, so that's 3 years ago. And in this position we see on the board, Caruana was playing with the white pieces and he put pressure on Carlsen's Berlin wall, and here already the black position is not too pleasant. Probably should play a waiting move like a5 or b6, something along these lines. But Carlsen played knight to e6, which is a mistake because here black loses a pawn. Knight takes e6, and probably black's intention was to take back, but Carlsen realized in time that after bishop e7 he would have to resign because there's a checkmate threat, so black doesn't have time to take the knight on f5. And black also doesn't want to take the bishop because this would result in a fork of king and rook, and then black also has to resign here. So because of that, Carlsen took the bishop on a3, but now he simply lost the pawn on g7. And white has now a 4 pawns against 2 pawns majority here on the king side, and his position is very good, and Caruana went on to win. This was the final position. Here Carlsen resigned because sooner or later he has to give up the bishop for this far advanced g-pawn, and he has no source of counterplay whatsoever, so there was no point in continuing the game. So that was Caruana's last win against Carlsen, so it's already a while ago. In the last 13 classical games, Caruana did not win against Carlsen. So we should say, of course, we're talking about classical chess here, not blitz or rapid. So now I would like to take a look at the last 3 games they played in 2018. And this was the game they played right after Caruana became the challenger, right after he won the Candidates 2018. He played with white, Carlsen with black, and Carlsen reached a winning rook endgame. Very complicated though, and both players really treated this rook endgame masterfully. Caruana defended really well, and Carlsen also found all the right moves up to this point. Here he's still winning, but he needs to find this move, rook h7, to stop the advance of the kingside pawns by white, and now he's winning. For example, rook b8 check, king a2, rook c8. And I believe one detail that Carlsen missed was that in this position there's king b1 possible and black wins. It's important to put the king on b1 and not on b2 because there white could just take the pawn with check, and also not on b3 because here white could give first a check on c3 and then take the pawn next move. So king b1 does the trick because after rook takes c2 now, black gives a check on d7. The king can keep defending the rook for one more move, but after rook c7, the rook will be lost on c2. Black still has the pawn on a5. These pawns on the king side are not giving white enough counterplay, and black wins. Also in this position, after rook h7, there's really not much else white can do. Like we said, the pawns cannot be advanced. And if king takes d3, then rook d7 check. And now, most simply is to push the a pawn forward, and white's counterplay once again will come too late. In the game, however, Carlsen played a5, which is a logical move, but now white's counterplay is fast enough, and Carlsen actually saw himself forced to give a perpetual here after these moves, rook h3, and now it was a perpetual, and Caruana escaped with a great defensive performance. Then the players met again in World Chess 2018, and here in this game Carlsen was playing with the white pieces. He had sacrificed a pawn for great activity. We see all the white pieces are well placed, active, and white has a pass pawn on the a file as well. So this is great, but black is really solid. He's a pawn up, so the position is still balanced. Just not that pleasant to play such a passive position. And here Caruana went active and he chose the wrong moment. He should have stayed passive with a move such as queen a6. And it's not clear how white can make progress, because if he activates the knight, then black can also activate the knight with knight h5, and the knight may come to f4. There might be ideas against g2, or the knight might end up on d3. So, or on e6 actually, that would be great to kick the queen out of this beautiful blockade square and then push the pawn forward. So black also has his chances here, but he would have needed to stay passive in the moment. Caruana played rook c7, which allowed white to win back the pawn. Here with queen takes b4. Now white has two connected passers on the queen side, and after queen c1, bishop d1, the black counterplay proved to be not too dangerous, and Carlsen went on to win this game. Here's the final position. White is up 3 pawns in this queen endgame, and the pawn is of course very close to promoting. White can support with the queen. So here Caruana resigned. So this was Carlsen's last win before the match, because in their last game in the Sinquefield Cup, Carlsen did not manage to win. This was the position after 24 moves. Carlsen with the white pieces, Caruana played the Petrov defense, and this was a interesting moment. In this position, Carlsen took on h6, which is a good move, and then he went to the confessional booth where players can talk about their game while it's going on. But Carlsen didn't say anything. He just made the shush sign. So put his finger to the lips, the index finger, as a gesture to Caruana fans and saying, I got this. But it turned out that Caruana defended from this point forward really, really well. It's almost as if he sensed this challenge. And the position is good for white. It's winning, but it still has to be won. And that's not an easy task to do. And after f5, rook h7, Carlsen missed a big chance here. He played knight g4. This is a good move. White keeps an advantage, but f6 would have been much stronger. And here white should win in the long run. Knight g4, g6, now c4, knight b4, d4. There's no direct knockout, but the black position is really, really passive, and white is dominating here across the board. So white should win in the long run. But Carlsen missed this chance and also made another inaccuracy afterwards. Caruana defended perfectly and was able to reach a threefold repetition here. Knight c7, rook e2, and so forth was the end to this game, and Caruana escaped once again. So those were the last games, and what can we expect for the match? We saw this year Caruana has done really, really well in all kinds of tournaments except for the first one, but against Carlsen he hasn't done so well. Out of the last 3 games, he lost 1 game and he was lost in the other 2, but showed great tenacity and defended. Also, the overall score for Carlsen is in his favor. 10 wins for Carlsen in classical chess, 5 wins for Caruana. So this suggests that Carlsen goes into the match as a favorite, but well, nobody knows what happens in these matches, and Caruana was or has been in supreme form all year long, and he has almost taken over the number world ranking spot from Carlsen. The rating difference between the two is only 3 elo points, and whoever wins the match will also either remain or take the number 1 status. So there's a lot to play for in this match. What's the match format? 12 games. Whoever reaches 6.5 points wins the match, and it will go on till almost the end of November because there are rest days after every 2 games. I will analyze all the games here on my channel, and there will be actually 2 different versions. So there will be a highlight video for those of you who maybe don't have that much time or don't want to watch an entire game analysis. So those will be approximately, I would say 5 to 10 minutes long. Of course, it depends on the games. And then there will be a detailed game analysis where I show the whole game and talk about the whole game. So you can find all of this on my channel. So if you're not subscribed yet, make sure to subscribe. First game will be on Friday, November 9th. I'll always post the analysis after the games are over, approximately 1 hour afterwards. And then we can get going. For further preparation for this match, I've written a book I would like to point out real quick on the 2 players. It's called Carlsen versus Caruana, Duel of Giants. And it's published on Amazon now. It's a game collection, so it features all the games of the 2. And I've analyzed the games in great detail. So actually for this preview video, I didn't have to do much preparation because it's already all done. And you can find it on Amazon, check it out. And if you want to get more in the mood, I guess that would be a good way. All right, with that being said, I hope to see you back on Friday. Until then.